Hello, and welcome to Soothing Pod's Sleep Stories. I am Arif, and tonight we will relax and unwind a soothing retelling of the myth of Prometheus. Follow the Titan as he defies the gods, stealing fire from Olympus to share with humanity. Let this tale of wisdom, defiance, and generosity gently guide you into a peaceful and restful sleep. Before we begin our tale, let's take time to relax and let go of the stresses of the day. Close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath in. And as you exhale, allow your body to soften, releasing any tension you may be holding. With each breath, let yourself sink deeper into a state of calm and ease. Now, bring your awareness to your feet. Feel the weight of them resting against the surface beneath you. Let go of any tension in your toes, the arches of your feet, and your heels. Imagine them growing warm, heavy, completely at rest. Slowly move your focus up to your ankles and lower legs. Breathe in relaxation, and as you exhale, let any tightness melt away. Feel your calves and shins soften, your muscles loosening, your legs sinking deeper into relaxation. Now, bring your attention to your knees and thighs. Allow them to release, growing warm and relaxed. Any tension held in these muscles begins to dissolve, leaving only a sense of softness and comfort. Shift your focus to your hips and lower back. These areas often carry the weight of the day. With your next breath, imagine a soothing wave of relaxation flowing through your hips, easing away any tightness. Let your lower back loosen, your spine settle into comfort. Now, bring your awareness to your abdomen. Take a deep breath in, feeling your stomach rise gently. And as you exhale, let all tension drift away. Your breath flows naturally, your body fully at ease. Focus now on your chest. Feel it expand effortlessly with each inhale. And as you exhale, allow your rib cage to relax. Your breath is deep, slow, and effortless, filling you with calm. Move your awareness to your shoulders. With each breath, they grow lighter, tension dissolving as they gently drop into a restful position. Let this relaxation flow down through your arms, past your elbows, into your hands and fingers. Your hands rest comfortably, open and free of tension. Now, bring your focus to your neck and jaw. Soften these areas with your breath, releasing any tightness. Let your face relax, your cheeks and forehead smoothing, your eyes soft and heavy. Your entire body is now at ease, from your toes to the top of your head. Take a deep, soothing breath allowing this sense of relaxation to settle within you. And now that you are relaxed, we can begin our story. The world before the gods was a place of unshaped power, raw and untamed. The Titans ruled not with wisdom, but with might, bending the land and sky to their will like children molding clay. They shaped mountains as thrones, carved rivers where they pleased, and split the heavens with their voices alone. But for all their strength, they lacked foresight. They were creatures of excess, vast, eternal, and unchallenged. Among them stood Kronos, greatest of the Titans, his rule absolute. He wielded a scythe of celestial gold, a blade that had once severed his own father, Uranus, from the sky. But it was not the heavens that trembled beneath him. It was his own kin. For Kronos feared prophecy. It whispered of a child who would rise against him, just as he had once risen against his father. So he devoured them, his own children, swallowing them whole before they could grow strong enough to defy him. Prometheus watched. Even as a child among Titans, he was not like the others. He saw the madness in Kronos' rule, the endless hunger for control, the folly of hoarding power. He did not know how or when, but the age of Titans would end, and when it did, Prometheus would not be on the side of the old world. Prometheus sat upon a jagged ridge of stone, watching the clouds churn in the sky. The air was heavy, charged with something unspoken, something waiting. Beside him, Epimetheus sprawled carelessly on his back, hands behind his head, eyes closed as if the world held no weight at all. "You think too much, brother," Epimetheus muttered, sighing. "Always watching, always waiting. What is there to fear? Kronos rules. The world is as it has always been." Prometheus did not answer immediately. His gaze lingered on the horizon, where thunderheads gathered, thick and dark. He could feel the shift in the air, the way the earth tensed beneath them. "Things do not last simply because they have always been," he said at last. "Power without wisdom is a fire left unattended. It burns, it spreads, and in the end, it consumes itself." Epimetheus scoffed, rolling onto his side. "You speak in riddles again. Titans rule because they are mighty. This is the way of things. What use is wisdom when strength decides the world?" Prometheus frowned but said nothing. There would be no changing his brother's mind. Not now, not yet. A sound carried through the wind then, low and distant. Whispers of war carried on the breath of the earth itself. A name rising like a storm breaking against the sky. Zeus. For days, the wind had whispered of something coming, something vast and inevitable. Now, the sky darkened, clouds rolling in not with rain, but with power. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the ground trembled beneath Prometheus's feet. He and Prometheus stood on a high ridge, looking out over the valley below, where the Titans gathered in defiance. Across from them, on the other side of the storm, stood Zeus and his followers, the young gods who had risen to challenge the old order. "It has begun," Prometheus murmured. Prometheus frowned but said nothing. The battle was not a clash of weapons or bloodshed. It was a war of forces beyond mortal understanding. Oceans rising and falling at Poseidon's call, mountains shifting under the weight of the Titan's steps, the sky flickering between light and darkness as Zeus's thunder met Kronos' power. It was creation reshaping itself. The Titans had ruled for an age, carving the world into what pleased them. But Prometheus saw what they could not. They had built a world that could not last. They sought only to preserve their own power, never to change, never to grow. "This is not our fight," Prometheus said, voice uneasy. "The Titans have always ruled. They always will." Prometheus did not answer. His eyes remained on Zeus, golden-eyed, standing at the heart of the storm. The young god was fierce, but more than that, he was determined. He was willing to fight for something new. Prometheus took a step forward. "Brother," Prometheus called after him. He did not look back. For 10 years, the struggle shook the world. Prometheus stood with Zeus, guiding him not with strength, but with wisdom, with foresight. And in the end, the storm passed. Kronos, the devourer, fell. The Titans who had ruled for eons were bound in unbreakable chains and cast into the depths of Tartarus. The old world was gone. The age of the Olympian gods had begun. At first, it seemed that Zeus would rule as he had promised. He freed his brothers, dividing the world among them. Poseidon to the seas, Hades to the underworld, and himself to the sky. The earth, once battered by war, began to heal. The rivers ran clear again, the mountains stood tall, and the wind carried no scent of battle. But cracks began to show. After a time, Zeus no longer spoke of liberation. He spoke of order, of loyalty. Where once his voice had carried warmth, it now carried expectation. The gods knelt not out of respect, but out of necessity. None dared speak against him. None dared refuse him. Prometheus watched, and for the first time, he wondered if he had made a mistake. "Tell me, brother," Prometheus said, standing beside him, eyes sharp with amusement. "Was this the future you saw?" Prometheus had no answer. The mortals, small, fragile, fleeting things, moved through the world with none of the might of the gods, none of the power of the Titans. They had no wings to soar through the sky, no claws to defend themselves, no magic to shape the land. Yet they endured. Prometheus had seen them huddle in the cold, pressing close against the wind, carving symbols into stone as if to speak to the future itself. He had seen them stare at the stars as though seeking something more, and so he descended. Prometheus walked among the mortals in the shadow, unseen as a god, his footsteps silent upon the earth. He watched as they struggled, fumbling with brittle branches, trying to weave them into shelter, their hands raw from the cold. He saw them stare at the sky, lost, unable to read the passing of the seasons, their crops failing before they could grow strong. He felt sorry for them. He knew that as a god, he could help them, and so he did. He guided their hands as they wove reeds into baskets, crafting vessels to carry water and grain. He traced the path of the sun across the sky, showing them how to mark the lengthening and shortening days. He dipped his finger into the dark earth and etched symbols into stone, gifting them the means to write, to remember, to pass knowledge from one life to the next. A child, no older than a few summers, pressed a small hand to his. "Thank you," she whispered. Above, Zeus watched. He did not smile. His gaze was cold, unreadable. For now, he said nothing. But gods do not forget. On returning to Mount Olympus, Prometheus was summoned. The halls of Olympus stretched wide before him, pillars of gleaming marble, rivers of gold running beneath his feet. At the far end of the hall, Zeus sat upon his throne, lightning dancing at his fingertips, his expression unreadable. "You think to shape them?" Zeus mused, his voice as smooth as rolling thunder. "To make them wise? What use is wisdom to a dying breed?" Prometheus did not flinch. He had expected this. He met Zeus's gaze but did not answer. He knew when silence was the wiser path. For a long moment, Zeus only watched him. Then he leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing. "You are my ally, Prometheus. Do not make yourself my enemy." The words carried no anger, only certainty, a simple truth, a warning. Prometheus inclined his head, but deep within, the first ember of defiance had already been lit. When he left Zeus's throne room, the weight of the warning still pressing against his chest, he knew the matter was far from over. Zeus would not let this stand. Days later, golden-winged messengers arrived, not just for him, but for all of Olympus. The gods gathered in the great hall, a place where judgment was passed and order was upheld. Massive pillars stretched toward a ceiling carved with constellations, and the very air hummed with power. The throne of Zeus loomed at the far end, wreathed in the glow of stormlight. Hera arrived first, her expression unreadable, her presence alone enough to command respect. Poseidon followed, his steps heavy as crashing waves, the scent of salt and storm lingering in his wake. Athena came next, watching, calculating, her sharp gaze betraying nothing. Hephaestus entered in silence, his hands clasped behind his back, his face set in stone. And then Hermes, leaning against a pillar, already smirking, as if this were nothing more than a passing amusement. When Zeus spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder, quiet but absolute. The time for meddling in mortal affairs is over. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Zeus let the weight of his words settle before continuing. For too long, the gods have shaped the fates of mortals, guiding them as one might guide a child. But children must learn to stand on their own. His gaze swept over the assembled gods, lingering on no one, and yet Prometheus felt the weight of it all the same. From this day forth, Olympus will remain apart. Mortals will struggle, and they will endure, or they will fall, but they will do so on their own. A hush fell over the hall. The gods turned their eyes toward one another, watching, waiting. No one wished to be the first to speak. But Prometheus had already made his choice. He could remain silent no longer. He stepped forward. The golden light of the throne room gleamed against his bronze skin, but he cast no shadow. He did not kneel, did not lower his gaze. He stood as an equal, unshaken by the presence of the king of Olympus. You decree that mortals must struggle, Prometheus said, his voice steady. But they do not struggle because they are weak. They struggle because they are abandoned. A murmur rippled through the gods, though none spoke. Hera's lips tightened. Poseidon's fingers drummed against his side. Even Athena, ever the voice of reason, remained silent. Zeus's golden eyes fixed on him. He did not stop him. The mortals suffer in darkness. Knowledge does not make them gods, but it makes them strong enough to survive. You sit above them and call it wisdom to let them perish. Zeus did not yet rise. He only watched, his expression unreadable, waiting, measuring. And in the silence, the gods shifted. Someone would have to take a side. It was Athena who stepped forward first. Her gray eyes gleamed with thought, fingers steepled beneath her chin. She did not look at Zeus as she spoke, but her words were measured, careful. He makes a good point. What harm is knowledge if it is well guided? A flicker of interest crossed Zeus's face, just for a moment, but he said nothing. Across the room, Hephaestus stirred. The forge master, the builder of wonders, his brow furrowed, deep lines creasing his face. He knew the power of knowledge better than anyone. At last he spoke. It is a tool, nothing more. His voice was quiet but solid, shaped like the things he crafted. A hammer may build or destroy. A flame may warm or burn. He let the words settle before adding, "It is the hand that wields it that decides its purpose." For a brief moment, Prometheus thought he might have an ally. But then Hera's voice cut through the air, cold and certain. "It is power," she said, "and power belongs to the gods." Poseidon nodded, arms crossed over his chest. "Give them knowledge, and soon they will think themselves our equals." A smirk tugged at the corner of Hermes' mouth, but he did not speak. He only watched, letting the conversation unfold. Prometheus had unsettled the balance, and now Zeus would decide what that meant. Zeus did not rise in anger. He did not strike the ground with his thunderbolt or let his voice shake the heavens. He did not need to. Instead, he lifted a single hand. The murmurs died instantly. The weight of Olympus pressed down upon the hall, silent and absolute. His gaze found Prometheus, unblinking, unmoved. "You would teach wisdom to mortals, Prometheus," Zeus said, his voice as smooth as polished stone. "But wisdom means knowing one's place." He stepped down from his throne, his movements slow, deliberate, measured. "Knowledge is power," Zeus said, "and power is the right of the gods." His voice did not rise, but it carried through the chamber like distant thunder. "Any who would share it will suffer." The warning was not just for Prometheus, it was for all the gods. Zeus watched Prometheus for a moment longer, then turned away. The storm had passed as swiftly as it had come. The matter, in Zeus's eyes, was settled. Later, Prometheus stood at the edge of Olympus, where the clouds fell away into nothing. Below, the mortal world stretched vast and silent beneath the night sky. No warmth, no fire, no light. Only shadows shifting with the wind, curling in the cracks of a world that had never known illumination. The mortals huddled in darkness, their breath rising in pale clouds, their hands fumbling against the cold earth. But the heavens above them remained indifferent. Zeus had spoken. The gods had spoken. The mortals must suffer. The words echoed in Prometheus's mind, heavy as iron. Yet they rang hollow against the memory of the faces he had seen, the desperation, the hunger, the silent pleas to gods who would never answer. His fingers curled into fists. They would not survive like this. "If I do nothing," he murmured to the wind, "they will fade into nothing." Prometheus made his decision. He turned from the heavens and walked toward the forge of the gods. The forge of Hephaestus never slept. Even in the dead of night, fire roared in its depths, great molten veins pulsing beneath the earth, feeding the hunger of the gods' ever-turning hammer. Sparks leapt from metal, illuminating the cavernous workshop in brief bursts of red and gold. The air thrummed with heat, thick with the scent of molten iron and scorched stone. Prometheus stepped inside, his presence swallowed by the hum of creation. Hephaestus did not turn. He continued working, shaping metal with precise, rhythmic strikes. But Prometheus saw the shift in his shoulders, the way he stiffened at the sound of footsteps. Hephaestus knew why he was here. "You ask me to betray Olympus?" The Forge Master's voice was low, steady. Prometheus shook his head. "I ask you to look away, just once." There was a pause. The hammer rested against the anvil, its echo fading into silence. Then Hephaestus sighed and turned his back. "The forge is always burning," he murmured. "If it is unattended for a moment, that is no fault of mine." There was a pause. The hammer rested against the anvil, its echo fading into silence. Then Hephaestus sighed and turned his back. Without a word, he walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the forge. The fire still roared, the molten rivers still flowed, but now Prometheus was alone. Prometheus stepped forward, his breath steady but his pulse quickening. At the heart of the forge, the sacred flame danced. It was no ordinary fire. It twisted and coiled upon itself, shifting colors that had no name, whispering in tongues older than the gods. It was alive, aware. It knew he did not belong. He reached for it. The fire shrank away at first, sensing the theft. But Prometheus was quicker. He produced a fennel stalk, hollowed at the core, and plunged it into the flame. The fire fought him. It lashed out, licking at his fingers, trying to chase him away. But Prometheus did not falter. "Come," he murmured, "the world needs you." Eventually the flame relented. It curled into the stalk, hiding within, flickering, waiting. Prometheus exhaled, feeling the heat still burning against his skin. The deed was done. He turned and strode from the forge, his steps quick but unhurried. No alarms rang, no shouts of pursuit followed. The gods slumbered, unaware of what had just been taken from them. Prometheus stood at the edge of the mortal world. The fire burned safely within the fennel stalk, flickering, whispering against its prison. It was not merely heat. It was potential, power, the foundation of something greater. It did not belong to Olympus. It belonged here with the mortals. He moved unseen through the night, past twisted trees and cragged hills, where no god had walked before. The mortals were close. He could hear them. Murmured voices, the rustle of movement, the sharp cry of a hungry child. They huddled together in the dark, as they always had. Their world was small, cold, and without light, but not for much longer. Prometheus stepped forward. The mortals flinched at his presence, their eyes wide with uncertainty. They did not know him, not truly, but they had dreamed of gods before, had feared them, had called to them in vain. No call had ever been answered. Prometheus knelt before them, placing the fennel stalk upon the bare earth. The flame curled at the edges, testing, waiting. "Take it," his voice was low, steady. The mortals hesitated. One among them, a young woman, her expression hard with survival but bright with curiosity, stepped forward. She reached out, then paused, eyes flicking to his. "Will it harm us?" Prometheus smiled. "No." She placed her hands around the stalk. The flame did not burn her. Instead, it warmed her fingers, pulsing softly as if recognizing her touch. She gasped. The others leaned in, watching. The fire did not lash out. It did not consume. It waited. Prometheus reached forward, picking up a dry branch and setting it against the ember. He breathed, slow and patient. The fire jumped. It spread along the branch, leaping from the fennel's core as though it had been waiting for permission. Light exploded into the darkness. The mortals cried out, not in fear, but in something deeper. Awe. Prometheus did not speak. He only watched. The young woman held the branch high, turning it in her hands, watching how the light played against the trees. She knelt and pressed it to a pile of dry wood. Fire bloomed. The others crowded closer, hesitantly, then eagerly. Hands outstretched, the cold would not take them tonight. They would learn. They would build. Prometheus smiled, stepping back. His work was done. Then, from the heavens, a low roll of thunder rumbled. Zeus was awake. Prometheus did not run. Instead, he turned towards Olympus, ready to face his punishment. The halls of the gods were silent when he arrived. They had been waiting. Zeus sat upon his golden throne, his expression unreadable. "You stole from Olympus," Zeus said, his voice calm but unyielding. "I gave them what was already theirs," Prometheus replied. Zeus studied him for a moment, then exhaled, as if disappointed. "Then you will share in their suffering." The gods watched as Hephaestus was summoned. He arrived carrying a set of iron chains, their links heavy, unbreakable, forged not for war, nor for mortals, but for a god. The journey to the mountain was long. The sky stretched vast above them, the land falling away beneath the clouds. Higher and higher they climbed, until at last they reached the lonely peak. The world below was distant, unreachable. Even the heavens felt further away. Hephaestus stepped forward. His hands, steady as stone, seemed slower than usual, but he said nothing. With practiced movements, he bound Prometheus in place. The chains tightened, anchoring him to the mountain, a fixture of the earth itself. The gods left without a word, leaving Prometheus chained there. A great shadow passed overhead, a silent presence, vast and inescapable. It was an eagle. Day after day, it would come to feast on Prometheus's liver. Night after night, Prometheus would heal, and morning after morning, the punishment would repeat. Though Prometheus remained bound, the fire he had given to the mortals could not be taken back. Far below, in the valleys and forests, in the quiet corners of the world, the mortals thrived. Their nights were no longer ruled by darkness. They built, they learned, they grew. The wind carried whispers of his name, not in fear, but in reverence. The gods watched. They saw what had begun, and though his punishment endured, Prometheus smiled. For in the flickering of every fire, in the warmth of every hearth, in the light that no storm could extinguish, he was free. I hope you enjoyed this story, and it has brought you a night of peaceful, restful sleep. Please join me again tomorrow night for another sleep story. Until then, sweet dreams.